I'm already having a mini family reunion looking at the attendees.
Hey everyone, and
Taking a
welcome to
look.
tonight's Cap Times member event featuring Dave Jorgenson of the Washington Post. Just a minute, I'm going to turn it over to our host, Jesse O'Poyen, but I want to take a moment first to thank our sponsor, Exact Sciences, and also all the Cap Times members with us tonight. Your contributions are crucial for putting on events like this one, not to mention the reporting we produce every day. Thank you. While I have you here, I also want to make sure you knew that our next event will be a week from tomorrow when Lindsay Christians will be hosting a Cooking with the Cap Times with Baker Olivia Tierney. And then the week after that, reporter Caitlin Farrell will be talking with Wisconsin Supreme Court Justice Brian Hagedorn. I'll post times and registration links for those two events in the chat after we get started. Speaking of which, I'm going to turn it over now to Jesse, who is our opinion editor at the Cap Times. Great to see you, Jesse.
Good to see you, Chris, and great to have Dave here with us tonight. I think this is going to be a lot of fun, and actually, more importantly, really great to have Sam here with us tonight.
He's honored.
Dave, how's Sam doing? It's been a long pandemic.
He just had a touch up, so you might have seen today in a TikTok for the real fans that he's been re-sharpied. So I had to do that. So he had a personal day that was good. But yeah, I think if you look at him, it kind of reflects my own personal health. So if the Sharpie's starting to fade, then that's when you start to worry.
And he's even got his own little newspaper hat.
Yes. Yeah. I folded that like 6 months ago, and the fact that that's starting to yellow is a little concerning, but
Yeah. So you are the Washington Post TikTok guy, which kind of like was a jokey thing, I think, at first when you incorporated that into your title, but you are that now. So how long has that been your title? And how would you explain the job that you're doing right now to yourself? I don't know, when you were 18, maybe starting college or, entering the adult world?
Those were two hugely loaded questions. That's in a good way. I'm excited to answer them. Before I want to say hi to my mom, of course, but my Aunt Susan, my Uncle Roger. My Aunt Susan's a professor at Wisconsin. So that's the whole Madison connection is there. So I'm glad. It's good to see their titles in the attendee bar. So anyway, yes, I've been the Washington Post TikTok guide. Jokingly, of course, as you mentioned, the whole reason I did it was when the Washington Post football team became the Washington Post football team. And I just thought for my Twitter name, it'd be funny to be Washington Post TikTok guy, because like a couple of people have already said that because they didn't know my actual name. And then it just like took off in a way where I feel weird if I change it back. And then I said at one point, I don't like to go back on my tweets. I said, I'm not going to change it back until the Washington football team has a real name. It turns out they might actually keep that name. So this could be my name forever, no matter where I live or what my job is. But that's how that happened. And, I think my whole thing with TikTok has always been leaning into what's ever happening. And in that, even with that, it was kind of lean into the joke, lean into it. Like if the people are deciding this and that they think that's funny, then that's, as long as you're, keeping your own morals or anything like that, you just go with the flow and kind of have fun with what's happening. Trying to explain this to, how old would I have to be? What age, Dave?
Dave pre-making it, whatever making it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's still confusing for young Dave.
Sure. Okay. Young adult Dave.
Okay, great. I would tell him everything hurts more than it used to. Like I just hit my knee, and that's still much more painful. No, I think I think it would be easy to explain the spirit of it, which is something I've been doing for a while. Like before the people showed up, we were talking about, even in college, I did like this fun thing that was a late night show. And it was like this whole experience where we were experimenting with stuff, and we would have like actual people come to this filming of a late night show we did in our very small college. And that spirit is still within all the TikTok, and except, with the one exception or the one addition of news really being fully infused into this account at this point. So it would be easy to explain the humor of it, but I don't know if I could even explain like the one thing that is very different for me is I'm much better at editing and shooting than I was, even 5 years ago. So, which is great. And I think those skills are why the TikTok account works, is I'm able to kind of be the sort of Swiss Army knife of a TikTok account. So that's, I don't know what young me would not have understood what I just said, but it makes sense to me right now.
No, that makes sense. And I'm going to go back into some of the earlier years in a second, but actually I'm guessing that a lot of the people who are watching right now are familiar with you and TikTok and what you do, but I'm guessing also, like you've got some family, I've got some family on here who maybe don't spend their days like scrolling through the phone, watching the next video. So can you explain what TikTok is and what you do on there to people who are maybe tuning in and are not totally familiar with it?
Yes. So Aunt Susan, Uncle Roger, this is the time to, in fact, I think they just found out the other day when they opened up the paper and my face appeared. So that's hilarious.
That's
See what happened. That at least how they found out about this event. But when I try to explain it, I really just kind of, I think you just have to stick to like the word that video app. I think when you try to explain it else, like it just gets confusing. But if you're just like, it's essentially YouTube, but just a more evolved version of YouTube, and it's much more addictive and it's vertical video based. And then they're like, well, what do you do? And I'm like, well, I try to make news worthy or TikToks about the news. And I do various formats, or I incorporate various sort of genres of TikTok in doing that. So if you're still following me at that point, then I think that pretty much explains it for the most part. But I think what's so great about TikTok is that like you don't have to really know, and I've seen this on Twitter, you don't have to know the trends on TikTok. You don't have to know the memes for the most part. If I just post something and it's effective and it gets the point across and the joke is there, hopefully if there is a joke, then it'll work. You don't have to know about TikTok or understand TikTok for it to work. So I think that's always a good thing to go by anyway, because I don't want to make a TikTok that's so confusing that, people outside of the app don't necessarily understand it. I do want it to feel like it's from TikTok, but I don't want it to be like, what's the word? Confusing people or I can't think of the word, but I want people to be incorporated.
No, that makes sense. And I think that is like one of the nice things about TikTok is there's a not necessarily community feel, but like there's a, like, if you're in on the joke, you're in on the joke, but also you don't have to be in on the joke to appreciate.
Exactly. And the word was alienating, by the way.
That is the word,
yes.
Alienating.
Younger Dave would have remembered faster, but that's fine.
Well, we're 30, we're getting old now.
Yeah, yes.
So were you more interested in journalism or comedy or kind of both when you were moving into this field?
Certainly comedy initially. When I was 18, I remember saying, I think even to my mom, like, I want to go write for TV. I was like, suddenly it kind of occurred to me, like, that's all of my interests are there. Like, I always loved watching TV, and I loved, you'll see this on my TikTok sometimes, like where I allude to a TV show. And I really think it's interesting to like build on things. And like, that's why I have a Hogan's Hero TikTok coming soon. Like, even if they're niche and you don't understand that reference, to me, that's like, I like Easter eggs. So comedy for me has always been that, which is taking something and making it funnier or more interesting, or just adding something to it. And the news part kind of came along more later in college because, one of the main reasons I went to DePauw University was they had these really cool internships, and one of them was Colbert Report. And I was lucky enough that when I got there, I got to get that internship. And it was there that I actually became much more like suddenly politically savvy or even just informed, because it was the middle of the 2012 election. And suddenly, like, because I was there 12 hours a day, I was just absorbing everything like a sponge. And then I kind of walked away from that realizing how much I actually cared about what's happening, which is important, I guess, but also how much the journalism aspect of it was suddenly much more interesting to me. And not to mention, the way to get that internship at my college was to be part of Media Fellows, an honors program, which our mutual friend Dana was also a part of. And you had to do a lot. You had to be part of the newspaper. You had to do radio and TV all at one point in order to stay in that honors program. So I was on the side, like actually picking up journalism without even like really fully intending to. So by the time I left, I was kind of equipped for it more than I realized. And then I kind of fell into it because a friend of mine suggested a job, or he recommended me for a job here in DC. And that was more news-based with some comedy. And so that's kind of what it's been ever since, is, actually, trying to relay the news to people, but in the way that I think is most effective or the best way that I can do it.
And was that job at IJR? Was that the?
Yes.
Yeah.
And that was that was like January 2014 or something.
So you've kind of worked for, a comedy show that maybe bends to the left a little bit, a news site that eventually kind of bent to the right a little bit. And now you're, the kind of one of the papers of record of the country that
sure
tries to shoot down the middle. How do you approach news comedy in a way where you can make fun of or, make jokes about everybody and not feel like you're, pushing it to one side or the other.
Well, I think what was so great about I'll just call it IJ. It was, the name changed like 5 times when I was there. At one point it was Injo, which we all thought was hilarious. But IJ, the thing about that was because it was, it started off center of right, and I think it actually kind of moved more right. But what was great about the video team there, which I was a part of, is that we kind of felt like we were our own, like we were part of IJ, but we were our own little section of IJ. And so we kind of felt like we were actually were center, but we were making videos for everyone and for mostly like trying to get the main audience's attention. So because we had to make these videos that appealed to essentially what became Trump supporters, though we didn't have a name for it yet, and we didn't, because he wasn't even running for president yet, but essentially we started making videos appealing to that audience that were still center. And I think that actually was really good for me, because I started to like pick up a lot of skills in terms of like, obviously we need to be objective, but also kind of understanding what people on the right and left find interesting and what they find funny. And so by the time I got to the Post, I did feel like I had the skills to, try to stay in the middle there. And what's been really nice is the sort of common denominator for me the whole time has been my boss, Michelle Giacone. She was my boss for at least a year at IJ, and she is my boss at the Post. And so we have this working relationship of like, I don't know, 6 years now, maybe, where we understand each other. I know what she's going to say no to. We might get into this, but like in terms of approving TikToks, I kind of know what she's going to say no to, so I don't make it. But then I also know how to like convince her that one might be okay. So there's a nice, really like good relationship there that I think has helped me throughout in terms of making videos that I hopefully are staying center and are effective.
I remember some of the IJ videos. I mean, you had Lindsey Graham put his cell phone in a blender after Donald Trump
he did 7 things to it. The blender was the most dangerous because the blender eventually broke and almost killed Lindsey Graham, but he's alive, so I can say that now. And we had him like hit it with a golf club, with a sword, a bunch of things. But that was that was probably the most memorable one.
That was good. Were you involved in I think Ted Cruz like wrapping some bacon around a gun? And
I was not involved with that one.
Okay.
But most other, well, I would say like half of the presidential ones at IJ.
Okay. Well, I think the one that I remember that our audience might be interested in was you were at CPAC and Scott Walker was there.
Anything CPAC. Every year we did something ridiculous, but I know what you're.
You had him do a high five contest.
Yes, and I refereed. So I just wore a referee jersey, and the whole I don't know. The thing about CPAC was, and it still probably is the case, is like people never know fully if you're joking, and like, and I was like, I'm gonna play into that. I'm just gonna be very serious. And he was high fiving everyone. I was just standing there with a whistle, watching him high five. And if the high five wasn't like satisfactory, I would whistle. And he had like a line of 500 people that he high fived. That was fun. He was, and for his part, he was a good sport. I mean, obviously it didn't make him look bad. He was like, all right, this is weird, but
right.
Yeah.
and you did the same, when you were at the Post and there were a million Democrats running for president, you got them to do some really goofy stuff too.
Right.
I mean, how do you convince people who generally, probably take themselves pretty seriously and kind of have to because they're running for a pretty high office, to let the guard down a little bit and be goofy on camera?
I do think that with IJ, because I'd seen it happen, I knew it could happen. You know what I mean? Like there's almost that level of like, it's almost a self-fulfilling prophecy of presidential TikToks. But no, like I really did feel like I knew that you could do it. So really what happened is because Andrew Yang agreed to it, I think that's actually, there was like a really quick avalanche. And I think if he hadn't agreed to it and hadn't done what he did, and it hadn't been as successful, I don't know that we would have gotten Beto. I don't know that we would have gotten, the Castro brothers. I don't know. But because he was so willing to kind of, if you remember, Andrew Yang's one was him kind of making fun of his polling numbers. And the other ones were never as bad, like never as self-effacing or, But, well, Beto's was in a way, I made him stand on my desk like he stood on the counter of many bars.
Of everything. I mean,
yes, of everything. But, I think there was a level of like, something I've sometimes borrowed too from Colbert even is that I would watch him before an interview and he would say, like, don't try to be funnier than me. Like, I'm the idiot. You're not. You're here because of what you do. Like, if you try to be funnier than me, you're going to look worse. And I often borrow that in terms of like, I don't say like you're not going to be funnier than me. I just say like, I'm the dumb person in this TikTok. Cory Booker, please tackle me. And he's like, okay, got it. So I think they kind of recognize that if I say that right off the bat, they sort of realize, okay, then I think this is a safe thing to do. So, okay, he's the idiot.
I mean, I think the two that really stand out the most to me are the Cory Booker one, where he's in the airport and it's like, oh, you know, the flight leaves in a minute and he comes running through and he tackles you. Right. Or the one with the two Castro brothers, where it's actually kind of playing off of a meme that you know, was successful on TikTok, where, you know, they're playing off of their twinness and you're kind of just a facilitator. Right. How did you negotiate like what the context or what the content is going to be, where, you know, how much of it is your idea, how much of it is like getting them to buy in and give their ideas? How did those come together?
I'll talk about both. The Senator Booker, I think I sent like 2 or 3 ideas and I ordered them. Like the first 2, I couldn't tell you what the other ones were. I don't remember, but I remember that like I made much more descriptions for the one that I wanted, which was the tackling one. And then the second and third one, I'd made them seem less appealing. So it was like, you can do this, but, and they were like, okay, that sounds great. So that was really good. The Castro brothers were like, his team was also, cause I would email like someone on his team, like, can we make a TikTok? They're like, okay, what do you want to do? And I would send like sort of an idea. They were also very receptive, but the problem was we didn't know if his brother was going to make it, because we did do it at an airport. And I think one of them was landing. I think Joaquin, Representative Castro, sorry, I'm not using all their honorifics, but Joaquin was landing and Julian was leaving, and we didn't know if we were going to get the timing right. And I was told that, no, we're not going to be able to do it. So you have to come up with something else. And I didn't have anything else. But then we get there and I was like, hi, nice to meet you, Julian. And he was like, oh yeah, my brother's coming. And he was the only person that knew his brother was going to be there. And the rest of his team was like, oh, we didn't know. Now I wonder if they were trying to like make me think he wasn't going to be there. I don't know. But the best thing about that one, the reason I like telling that, like, this is my favorite one, I think, is because he started directing his brother, because he understood what I was talking about. I showed him the meme, like the audio, and he got it right away. But his brother didn't. And he was like helping me direct him. And it was just, I wish we could have recorded that part. Like that could have been a TikTok, you know? So that was really fun. But yeah, I mean, like the process was always pretty easy. And I think because it was always like, we always pitched it as like on your way out or while you're leaving something, like you just have 10 minutes. It's going to take no time. And it usually does take 10 minutes. So it works out.
So, I mean, from a broader philosophical perspective, you know, let's get serious here. Your job here is, you know, to communicate news to an audience, to make it appealing to people, to make the Washington Post appeal to people. TikTok is a tool and it exists, and that's where you're kind of excelling right now. But, you know, there's always another thing, and there's always the last thing. Right. So I guess, like, how do you think of the way that, you know, what you're doing with TikTok, you know, how does that translate beyond this? And, you know, I guess, how does a newspaper kind of continue to be relevant and reach people in new ways without just, you know, hitching their, you know, start of the trendiest wagon? Yeah.
Well, to answer this, I have to go back, which is to say that when I started the TikTok account, part of the reason it was kind of greenlit is because of what we were doing with Snapchat and what like Gene Park had been doing with Reddit for years, which is having a Washington Post presence on these apps that were like, that a lot of newspapers are not on, at least Reddit. And so it was in some ways, I wouldn't say easy, but like easier to convince everyone that TikTok was a good place, because we were already trying these other platforms and had a lot of success on them. You know, Snapchat is generally smaller, but like we still have a lot of success there. So that is something that I think we're still committed to over time. And I think the same with TikTok is, it is a little abstract. I've always felt, and I think now more than ever, people kind of believe me that TikTok is kind of around to stay. And like, to your point, though, I think it's going to have to keep evolving like anything. You know, I think if Facebook hadn't kept evolving, if they hadn't bought Instagram and like essentially like got a whole new generation with Instagram and now doing Reels, then they probably wouldn't be as successful as they are now. But what I like about TikTok is that there's very clear signs that they are continuing to do that, because they're just constantly adding things to the app based off of feedback from creators. And they're trying. I'm not saying they're perfect. I'm not like an ad for TikTok, but I do think that from what any conversations or other creators I've talked to, it does seem like TikTok is actively trying to give people what they want and keep updating the app, as opposed to Vine, for instance, which just stayed the same the whole time. But I know that's not quite what you're asking. In terms of like, what does it mean going forward? I think, like, again, sort of abstractly, like it has been creating a trust with the audience that follows us on TikTok. And what I always say is, like, especially last year was like, is TikTok going to get banned? I didn't think it was going to get banned anyway, but if someone asked, I was like, if it gets banned, then we'll just go on Reels tomorrow. Like, I'll just move it to another app that's very similar, and there's like 3 of them already. So it just kind of lives on in a different app anyway. And I don't think that, like, because it isn't on TikTok anymore, it would suddenly not be relevant elsewhere. People would go, if the platform's gone, then people are also going to a different platform, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, that definitely does. And so that's one of the advantages of TikTok, is that you are reaching a younger audience than I think a lot of newspapers and just news publications in general are able to do. We've trained people to expect to get news for free and to, sort of be able to just like take what they want. And there's not necessarily a lot of loyalty, I don't think, but you've gotten some
subscribers.
You've gotten subscribers. You've got people who are, following along with Sam, and
I know the company Spam is a fan, which is good. They sent an email once. That was funny. So
that's good.
As long as I have their support. Hormel.
No, that's helpful.
Uh-huh.
Do you think that this is a way, and are there other ways that news organizations that are used to sort of courting maybe older people who are used to consuming news can actually create younger audiences and keep them on board for a while?
I think, again, like, this is, in some ways, this is opinion, what I'm telling you, but I do feel like this is true for us, which is the strategy when we first got on TikTok for about a year was, for the most part, pretty light TikToks. Like, there was a point to them in the sense of, like, here's the newsroom, here's who the Washington Post is. Like, I always joke, but it's true, that we would have comments like, hey, I'm in Seattle, are you guys nearby? We're like, no, we're in Washington, D.C. And like sort of reintroducing ourselves to a new generation.
Like, there are people who didn't realize.
Yeah, they still, and it doesn't happen as often anymore, but there was like a week where it happened like 3 times in 1 week. I was like, what's happening? Why does everyone think? But it's fun, it's playful, and I like to play back with that too, of course. But I think that was the first sort of phase of it, if you want to call it that. And then phase 2 of our cinematic universe was actually starting to incorporate news and, setting up links in the bio where people can read more about it, and having a subscription page where there's a discount for TikTok followers if you go to this link, specifically if you have like an EDU email, which of course is naturally by nature targeting a younger audience. So I think it's a gradual thing, and I don't think you should like there's no way you could do it overnight, but I do think that like building that loyalty over time has been, fairly successful. And I think it's about being flexible. And like, if a year from now, if TikTok becomes, I can't think of an example, but like different types of videos are on TikTok trending, then we'll have to kind of shift to start making TikToks like that. Like, you probably noticed more recently, like more of our TikToks have been more like, sort of like skits, but in the sense of like someone talking to themselves. I've been doing that not because I wanted to talk to myself all day, but because like the TikTok trend has been kind of these conversations people have with each other. And it does kind of fold into that pandemic world of I'm alone and I'm doing this. So
that's true.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I was just thinking about that earlier today. I was like, a lot of the things that I have been sent or like have laughed at recently are just like the same person playing like 3 characters or something.
Yeah, exactly.
So how weird was that to have to lean into to that, like talking to yourself, playing different characters?
I loved it. I mean, like, there was, I have to be careful because of course the pandemic is a terrible thing, but I was independently or in a excited about the creative challenge it was going to be. I didn't think it was going to last over a year, but I did feel like maybe this is going to be 3 months. That's why I'm going to start a Twitter thread, which is now 550 videos long. But I was really excited about like just doing something a little different, and the challenge of having to film yourself, because, normally what I'd have to do is suck up to someone that morning in the office and say, can you film this for me? And shout out to Mary Beth Albright. She's my number 1 recorder. And so there was that. And I was like, okay, well, I have to get a tripod and put an actual tiny iPhone thing on a tripod what you normally use for Sony FS7s and get a light and all these things. I like that. I thought that was fun and exciting. And I think what was so appealing to me about it from the get-go was like, I know this is a uniquely new thing. Every so often you feel like, has someone done what I'm doing before? But like, I was like, I don't think anyone's done this. So that was exciting for me. And it still is, though I am kind of, I think I tweeted today, I was like, it was a TikTok from back in the newsroom. And I am starting to get a little bit, I'm longing for that a little more again.
Yeah. I mean, you had a whole sort of captive cast as long as they were just willing to.
We counted at one point, there'd been over 50 individual employees in TikToks, which is awesome that they all would agree to different things. Yeah.
Including Bob Woodward.
Woodward, though, yeah. He didn't.
Although his appearance was like, okay, tell me about that.
Yes. So this is like totally fair that he did this, but it was like Bob Woodward was in the office for like an hour and he was talking to interns, which is something he does like, I think almost every time there's new interns. So that's awesome. But I knew that, I could have like, it was one of those things where I'm gonna have a window when he's so done talking to them. And I don't remember who helped me explain to him, but I was like, I just need you to stand there for 5 seconons because they were doing the choose your character meme. Yeah, and he's like, and he was just like, I don't know what you're talking about. I was like, fair. Can I just record you? And he was like, he said, he was eating a cookie. He's like, do I just stop eating my cookie? It's like, maybe, I don't know. But all that to say, like, I just felt like such an idiot. I'm like, I'm so sorry, Bob Woodward, but let me just fill you. That's why if you watch the video, you can see that he's just like, what's going on here? And as he should be, which is why, going forward, I started, if I needed Bob Woodward, I just played him in a TikTok. We had like the whole Watergate TikTok where I was like, I just have to play him. I don't think he's going to go into our parking garage to recreate this scene.
Maybe you can get him again. Like you have to limit your asks on that one.
Yeah. I think I would have to pretty much lie to him at this point. Be like, oh no, it's for a mugshot. Like, I don't know how else I could do. Which I won't do, by the way.
No. Yeah, well, you probably shouldn't lie about that. I think is a rule. It doesn't work out well.
That's one of the main rules when you go to the Post. Don't lie about it.
So I guess like can you just sort of walk everyone through, like idea to finished products, like how do the TikToks happen, and how many different drafts and proposals and things have to come through to make that.
So as I mentioned, I'll talk about the beginning and the end at the same time here. So Michelle and my other boss, Lauren Sachs, they have to approve each TikTok. What's nice is there's enough flexibility there where for the most part, I don't tell them what I'm making beforehand, which I'm sure is terrifying for them every time I send them the file on Slack. It has to be a horrific moment when they're like, what's this going to be? But there is, again, a working relationship where I recognize if they're going to say no or if they have big edits or something like that. So that's all to say that I come up with the idea and shoot it and produce everything before I even talk to them, really. And part of that process is I look at, literally the trending news stories on the Washington Post homepage. And if I see anything of like maybe the top 10 stories that I think might be something that I could at least explain part of effectively in a TikTok, then I start to look at that and I write the 3 or 4 that might work down. And then I go on TikTok and I kind of scroll and look for trends, usually TikToks that are like 15 hours old because those are more popular trends. So we always look cooler when we're using like a very new trend. And the other reason for that, besides looking cooler, is that if an audio is trending and you have like a news TikTok on top of it, it's just going to do much better because that's So, and at that point, if I haven't thought of something from that, that's kind of where I go with, okay, I'm going to make my own sound, which is to say, I'm just going to write my own script for a TikTok. So that whole process takes about 1 to 2 hours every morning and then rinse and repeat for the second TikTok. So really the filming is the easiest part because I script it all out and it's only like, I'm filming for like 15 to 30 seconds. So I just have to set up, I know every corner of this apartment at this point. I know what the light looks like, everything. I've pretty much done every angle at this point, which is kind of crazy. Which I don't know if you saw, but we did the Peeps Diorama Challenge and someone literally recreated my apartment from TikToks without having been in my apartment. So that was kind of terrifying. Anyway, so I shoot it. It takes about 15 minutes and I edit it. The edit takes about an hour because I really want to make it work, be snappy, and most importantly, be something, for lack of a better phrase, loopable. I want people to be able to keep watching it and enjoy it and hopefully pick up new details and information each time and actually take in the news. So that's a big part of it for me. I think that the most important part is the edit, because I don't want it to look too polished, but I don't want necessarily to think that I put a lot of effort in, but I still want it to be effective. You know what I mean? There's that weird thin line. There's that weird line. So yeah, that's basically and then I post it, and then I try to, if I have time for like a half hour, I try to reply to comments, because sometimes there's like actually very good comments, like asking further questions that I can clarify.
Yeah, I mean, that's a whole, I guess, other element of it is you're also the person who is going to engage on the platform if
right.
Yeah.
And obviously TikTok is like, not unlike YouTube even really, but like built for this personality based relationship.
Yeah. So I'm going to take an audience question, which is, since TikTok users tend to be young, how do you think they'll want news in 10 years?
That's a really good question. I imagine it would be, something, going back to school, I did learn things in school. And I remember one particular class, really for a number of classes, we had this conversation about like, what's going to happen when people stop buying the newspaper. And I remember we were all looking at our professor and we're like, we don't buy the newspaper now. Like,
right.
Like and I was like, to clarify, I was like, we're reading it online. Like some of us did have online subscriptions and stuff like that. But I remember trying to explain to the professor, who was like well-meaning, that why would we have a paper when it's so much more accessible and quick? And this is kind of before push notifications on your iPhone, even like Apple News, but like, it's all right there, and it's probably a little cheaper. And like, as Gen Z says, save the turtles. Like, you don't need to waste paper. So, I like, obviously I work in the Washington Post, but I mean, like, you have to, like, obviously, like most of our readers now are online, and I would like to think that the paper to some extent will still exist forever, but like the main audience is online. So that's all to say that, we should continue to just follow whatever that trend is. And I know it's a crystal ball question, so I can't really answer it, but that's just to say that, like, I don't think people are going to lose interest in news. I think they're just going to keep finding different ways to consume the news that works best for them. I think the real challenge is making sure that they're not falling too far down different rabbit holes and obviously more extreme views, which is something we're all very aware of, the sort of polarization. I think that's the real challenge. It's not will people read news, it's will they continue to seek out news that is more, fair and balanced, so to speak. That to me is a bigger challenge.
So another question that was sent to me before this seems like a good time for that. How has the change in presidential administrations affected the way that you do this job, or has it?
I think overall it's been, I want to be careful because I don't want it to sound, it's been better in the sense that like I can cover other topics. I felt like by the end of 2020, when we really started to lean into news coverage, it was just all political coverage, and like any election year it would be. So, obviously that's part of it, but now it just doesn't feel like every other day I wake up and think, oh, do I need to cover this big thing that's happened? So I like that I can actually like represent other, like, and also my other, like my coworker, because all this stuff is being sourced from Post articles. So like I can actually, talk about other reporters' work as opposed to just constantly using whatever David Fahrenthold wrote that day,
Yeah. So kind of stepping back for a little bit, you're a Midwesterner.
Yes.
Brought up,
city.
College, like, and now you're out on the coast. How has your Midwestern upbringing and general sensibility, I guess, do you think, does it influence the way that you approach your job, the way that you do comedy, the way that you work in general?
Yeah. I think, yes, I'm just reading this comment, which is funny. Yes, I intentionally said fair and balanced. I was trying to make, it was a bad joke. Anyway, I do think news should be fair and balanced. Anyway, I think that there's two factors. Yes, like the Midwestern sensibility, but I also I do credit my dad a lot. He doesn't work in journalism or anything, but I do feel like I would watch him a lot growing up and see how his coworkers, people above and below him, and how everyone is treated equally, but also just that people enjoyed being around him. And I think that is really important in whatever job you're in. I think that, I just think that, and that's something I saw Stephen Colbert do as well, which is just like trickle down leadership really does affect a workplace, and people will respond to that. And if the person up top is treating everyone fairly, then the people below will. And if they're not, they'll probably not be there much longer. So I think that is something, and I think that does tie into the Midwestern sensibility of it all, is that people should want to work with you and enjoy, and vice versa. You should be willing to help other people with their projects when you can, and sort of, that sort of a symbiotic relationship of willing to help people when they need your help. And it just overall is a good thing.
Yeah. So you mentioned your dad, and I've read some interviews with you before where you have said that he maybe influences kind of the way that you present yourself. So I guess I'm interested in that, but also how much of what we see is a character as opposed to just Dave?
I think it's always just a magnified version of any of my feelings or anything. Like the whole I'm going crazy in quarantine kind of thing was, obviously I wasn't going crazy, but I did want to play into, this feels really weird and hectic, and I do feel strange about it all, just like you do. So I think it's always just a magnified version of what's happening. And that's true sometimes with the news, of just how are we going to take in what's happening right now? Especially last summer, it just felt like there was so much happening. I wanted to reflect that in the TikTok. So I think there was a lot of my own sort of feelings of that coming out through the TikToks. That's certainly me and not just a character.
Yeah. Another reader question is, someone on here lives in DC and yelled Washington Post TikTok guy at you on the 4th of July on the mall, and is assuming that happens more as your platform grows in a political city. Is it strange to be noticed out and about?
Yes, very strange. It's really nice, but it's very nice. It's still very strange. So just to be clear, I think it's only really DC. I mean, I won't know until the pandemic ends, I guess. But DC is a high school in some regards. That is sort of the joke. And it does feel that way sometimes, where not only does that happen, but I just see people that I just know really well all the time. There's just a lot of people that that were part of my life at one point that I'll just see walking down the street at any given day. And it's so strange. So I do think that is part of it. I vaguely remember you yelling at me, and I hope that I responded well, because I always feel bad. I always want to have a really witty response ready for someone, and I don't always, so hopefully they were satisfied with my recognition of them yelling Washington Post TikTok guy.
So, okay, a couple of things. One, you kind of delved into a little bit of the going crazy during pandemic. We're all in a weird spot, and you've got Sam sitting behind you over your shoulder there, this little hat. Just tell people a little bit about how you came to have this special coworker in your life.
Yes. I was just trying to figure out today when he was introduced, and it was the 4th TikTok. And at the time, he did not have a hand. He didn't have a hat. He just had the googly eyes. As you can see, the mouth is sort of whatever is in that spam sandwich. I'm just realizing for the first time, it really is just a spam sandwich. Anyway, so that was, again, the sort of exaggeration of, okay, I want people to think I'm going crazy. The sort of open secret at this point is that I am married. So my wife is just right in the other room all the time, which I think makes it funnier if you know that. But there is just a level of, it's just a joke there that I'm, going crazy. And I thought that was the perfect way to do it. But also that comes from, that predates the pandemic, in the sense that I did have all these pumpkin spice spam TikToks I was doing beforehand, just because it existed and I just wanted to do it. So I was trying to continue that storyline, but then Sam kind of became his own thing. At one point, someone made a Twitter account for him, and they kept it going for a while, but I don't know anyway, it was just a whole culture around Sam. And I think that I always think of, people make the joke of the early pandemic days. I feel like that was sort of the early pandemic days of Sam. So he still appears. If you're watching TikToks more often now, he was featured in one today, but he will be in the background, just, I purposely hide him for people to find him as an actual Easter egg.
So there was a time when someone created a Twitter account for my dog, and it was cute, but it was also they sort of imposed some political beliefs on her that I was like, no.
Right.
So I guess, as you're trying to interact with people and encourage that, you want them to feel like they're kind of part of your life, but also you have a life. And I know early on there was like a lot of TikTok guy thirst going on Twitter. Like you became kind of a little crush symbol for some people, but you're happily married. You've got, your own life going on. Sam is just a part of the TikToks. How do you try to like encourage that interaction without, I don't know, letting it get too weird?
Definitely every so often the sort of I'll dampen the thirst, not dampen, what's the word? Dry, I don't know. I'll put out something to quench the thirst, in the sense of I'll just put out a picture of my wife and me and just be like, by the way, don't forget. But I'll be very subtle about it. You'll know, if anyone watching here, you'll see when it comes now on Twitter where it's just like, oh, we just had a great day at the park. And we did have a great day at the park, but I'm trying to make it clear, because I think, to your point, I don't want to, I appreciate the compliment, but also I don't need that or want that, but also I don't want to draw them away from the Washington Post TikTok. So it is this weird balance. But I mean, I would say 99% is just really harmless and funny. And and again, like with the Sam Twitter account, it's mostly stuff like that are just really in the spirit of what we're doing already.
So in a TikTok, you ate pumpkin spice Spam, just cold, uncooked, took a bite out of it.
That was real, not CGI.
Is Sam still, intact?
He's intact. He is intact. For Christmas, I drove down to my parents in Kansas City, and this will be relevant in a second, I promise. My nephew at one point found Sam, because I brought him just in case to make TikToks, and was going like this. And the funniest, and my brother-in-law goes, Jonas, don't touch that. That's Uncle Dave's special friend. Which still makes me laugh to think about. And he was saying it as a joke, but also we were kind of like, don't open it. So it was this weird mixture of, oh wait, please actually don't, but also we're aware of how weird this is and how it looks like a toy. But no, he has not been opened. That was the closest call we've had.
Okay. Well, I think we're all rooting for him at this point.
Yes, naturally. Yeah.
I've got another audience question, which is, if TikTok created a premium model where people could subscribe to get exclusive content, would that appeal to you? Or is it better to sort of have this like free thing where you could reach everyone?
It's tough. Unfortunately, the cop-out answer is it wouldn't really be up to me at this point. It'd kind of be up to the people, PR, marketing, whoever at the Post. We certainly want to make money off it, and I completely agree with that. So it sort of is going to be something whatever becomes the best way to make some kind of money off it without being too, I don't know, exclusive, I think will probably be the solution. For instance, right now, I can't do a sponsored TikTok where I'm in it, or probably even producing it, because that's against journalistic ethics. So we would have to find a workaround if we did that, where it would be just a whole separate TikTok, on our account, but not even something that I touch. So we're trying to figure out what that would be.
Another sort of business side question who comes from our audience strategist here at the Cap Times. We currently don't have a TikTok right now at the Cap Times. Dave, what would you say to our publisher/leadership team to convince them we need a TikTok? Basically, please do my job for me, so thank you in advance. That's from Chelsea.
Okay, what I would say to Chelsea before I say to the publisher is you want to make sure that you can hire or have someone who really knows how to, who would be able to shoot and edit every day, specifically the edit aspect. What's really nice is, as more Gen Z and anyone else that's just on TikTok goes into newsrooms, there are much more TikTok savvy people. But I do think it's really important that you have someone, not unlike a Snapchat team or Instagram team or whatever else that you might have, that you have people that can be dedicated to it. So you should say that, and you should pitch it to the publisher and be like, we need to commit to this to some extent. It doesn't have to be a lot of people, but it could just be 2 people who are fully focused on editing and shooting and making TikToks every day, because I do think that it helps to have a decent amount of TikToks every week. Sometimes people ask me, like, well, what if I just did one a week for my organization? Maybe that's fine, but I don't think you would have the same growth if you did that. There's one of my favorite TikTok creators, her name's Chunky's Dead, her name's Melissa, but her username's Chunky's Dead. Her thing is she always says quantity over quality. And that it's kind of a joke, but the point being that the more TikToks you post, the more success overall you're going to have. So I would say do it, commit to it. And I would point out that within 2 years, we almost have 1 million followers. Yahoo News got over 1 million followers in months. And they have a slightly different strategy. So I think you could actually go to them and say, hey, Yahoo News, USA Today, The Post, NBC News, all these places are doing it, and they all have different approaches, and they're all successful in their different approaches, which is a very good sign that it's not just everyone doing the same approach or something. It's a lot of different approaches, and all of them are pretty effective.
Yeah.
Well,
I hope so too. You said the magic words, make a TikTok every day. And that's the title of your book, which is sitting underneath Sam right now.
Thanks for the convenient.
Book, Dave.
Yeah, I feel a bit like I'm showing it out, but my publisher keeps telling me I'm not doing it and I need to do it. So I do have a book coming out in June. It's called Make a TikTok Every Day. And it is essentially what it sounds like. The idea was, I think when I was approached for it, it was, can you do a book about how to make TikToks? And I thought, well, I don't know that I could. I think writing it would be really, I don't know if people would want to read from a book how to make TikToks. I think they'll probably go into YouTube to see how. So I was like, what if it's more of a writing prompt book where you're just getting a bunch of different ideas to generate content and you could just use them as a sort of starting board. So that's what it is. I divided it into 12 genres of TikTok, totally subjectively, but I hopefully effectively, there's history TikTok and alt TikTok and all these different chapters. And each chapter has a different interview with a creator from that genre. And they all have total, there's 365 TikTok ideas. So you would be able to make a TikTok every day for a year. So that's it. And I think it's $15. You can pre-order it. All those, I feel so weird saying all this, but I probably should. So if you are interested, I do think it's definitely something that can it's funny if you don't make TikToks, but also if you are making them, I think what was always helpful for me when I was trying to writing prompt books. So it is that is the sort of idea behind it.
Cool. Well, one of our audience members has submitted 2 questions / sort of prompts, and I'm going to put them both out to you because she is the one who I showed you before this, has your t-shirt with
on Twitter, naturally. Yeah.
And made a little cutout of me with a little paper hat to put next to it. So Laurel has asked you to either talk about the Eagle Scout series from the IJ days, or can you show us Lola?
Lola's in with her mom right now, and that could be chaos. She being
good right now? Yeah.
Yeah, which is rare. It's very rare. Yeah. If she happens to pop out, I will definitely show you. She's become so TikTok averse or just camera averse at this point that if she'll see the light and she'll go, no, this is not good. He's going to try to get me to do something. So I can't get her. But the second part, what was the second part? I can definitely answer.
The Eagle Scout videos. Yeah.
Oh, sure. So the whole, I'll explain it as best I can without you seeing the visual, but the whole idea with that was, we wanted to do a video series at IJ. This is 2015, I think. And I think we ended up making about 7 or 8 episodes, but the idea was I kept trying to do these videos on the street where I was asking people questions, and I didn't feel as if I was as approachable, or it just didn't seem as funny as I wanted to be or interesting. And so I thought if I put on my old Boy Scout uniform, and I am an Eagle Scout, so the whole thing with the merit badge sash and everything, people won't be able to say no to me. They'll be kind of weirded out, but they're going to say, I can't ignore the Eagle Scout talking to me, this grown man with a beard, but that's what happened. And so we would make all these videos where, it was always a question that we wanted to have answered. So someone would submit a question, and then I would get the answers to it, and then I would purposely misinterpret the answers and try to execute them. So for instance, there was a question, is chivalry dead? And which was an easy throwaway one, because then people just gave us all kinds of answers, and then how to be chivalrous, and then I just intentionally misinterpret. I mean, not in a terrible way, but just didn't take their instructions well, and was trying being overly chivalrous and all these different things. So it was a really fun series. I think it was kind of perfect for me in that time, because it was kind of really professionally my first on-camera experience, I think. And also kind of where I started to learn how to edit and collaborate and make things that are actually news or somewhat related to the news. So that was good.
Yeah. We've got about 10 minutes left, and I know how I'm going to close this. So I've got one more audience question I will take from Kristen, my friend Kristen, who produces some great TikToks here in Wisconsin under the As Goes Wisconsin handle.
Ooh, yes.
And she asks, when you are deciding on what to make in a day, what takes priority? The better / more newsworthy story that you think more people should know about, or the story that you think can make the more clever TikTok about?
Usually the former. Especially if it's something where I feel this is again sort of an abstract answer, but I do feel that Twitter is sort of ahead on trends about 12 hours ahead of time. So if I see something the night before or the morning of a news story and it could be a really relevant news story that's on our homepage, but I can see it already really something that people are engaging with on Twitter, then I really feel like we have to do it on TikTok. And I don't really make exceptions for it. If it's something that the whole country is going to be talking about, then that's the first TikTok I make that day, no matter what. That is the freedom though, that because I'm, almost every day making 2 TikToks every day, that sort of second one that might be on trend, I feel like I can just do it right after and it'll be fine. I never feel as if I'm going to totally miss a trend as long as I do it within the next couple of days. So it is sort of a case by case thing though. I just think that you kind of can feel it out and just tell what people, and not only what people are going to be talking about, but what people might be misunderstanding or not be totally informed on. The Johnson & Johnson vaccine is a really good example where the last couple of days I've really tried to make a couple of TikToks that are actually, correcting people before misinformation gets out about what they're really, and I kind of hope to continue to do so as the story develops and explaining what exactly is happening with that vaccine. Because there are a lot of people who, especially in our comment sections, are really worried about it. And that's something that I think is, going to be important for a while.
Well, I'm going to ask my last question, which is 2-part. I'm going to tell you my favorite Washington Post TikTok, and I want to hear the story behind it. And then I know that you can't choose your favorite. There are, a million, but I'll ask you to choose one that you really enjoyed and tell me a little bit about it. So my favorite one was the one where you're in Congress and you're taking advantage of the sea shanty trend, and you've got the Wellerman Congress mashup. I watched that so many times and I showed it to so many people, and it required me
That's so nice.
Like I showed it to my parents and I was like, okay, so first you have to understand like that sea shanties are popular right now, and like also this was in the news today, but I still I think even if you didn't get the joke, it would be great. So how did that one come up?
Okay, so that one was, and it's funny because we're talking about news stories, but this was a TikTok trend, so it is kind of related to the last question in a way, where I did feel as if, okay, there's not a pressing news story. I really want to do the sea shanty TikTok, and it was kind of about the news. I mean, it was about Congress, but that was sort of but I just thought I have to do this. And sea shanties were just starting to kind of come up on TikTok, and it was sort of the reverse where Twitter was starting to become aware of it. And I just saw a really good version of it where it was about 6 people duetting with each other and doing the audio. So it was sort of like, I didn't even have to make the decision. I already knew it was happening, if you know what I mean. Mm-hmm. And it was one of the very few times where as I was making, like, I think this happens maybe 1 in every 200 TikToks where I was like, I think this is going to be really good. I felt good while I was actually laughing to myself, which is fully crazy TikTok Dave, whatever. And I just, the challenge really was the edit, because I knew I wanted to put my, different characters' faces in about, I think there's one screen where there's 4 different faces and they're all angled differently on a green screen. And so I had to do that exactly right. So that was one thing where I think the shoot took about a half hour and the edit took about 2.5 hours. But it was worth it. So I just felt that I'm glad you said that one. I think that's probably one of my favorite, because beginning, middle, end, and then the reaction to it, the whole process for me was so rewarding. And it was just, I can't remember. I mean, now more often than not, there's always just something really horrible happening. But I felt like at that time, that was something that people really needed too. So that was like another thing that felt really good about it.
I'm learning possibly that maybe I can play this, except that I don't know how to do this. Chris Murphy is trying to help me figure this out.
Oh, like a screen share type of thing?
Yeah. Chris, can you just do it? I don't know what I'm doing.
Okay. Oh, there we go. Okay. Forgot about that caption. Uh-oh, am I gonna have to start singing
Sound on it or no?
It might be tough. Sometimes you can't play the audio through the Zoom.
I'm not sure if we can do the audio.
But you are seeing visually here how impossible it was. And then of course I wanted to have, the Vine trend even was putting a towel on your head to make yourself a woman.
That's right. Yeah.
So that was a nice little Vine throwback in the TikTok too.
Well, maybe Chris can drop a link to that in the chat too. And I'll ask you to share one that you enjoyed and tell us a little bit about it.
Ooh, I probably would have said that one more recently. Man, it's so hard.
That one was great.
Let me look at I'm going to look at I'll just try to pick one from the last couple of weeks or something, if that works. Yeah, I think some of the ones I really like, I keep saying rewarding, but I think the rewarding ones really are the ones that make it not rewarding just in the sense of, oh, that's got a lot of views, but, oh, I was able to sort of thread the needle on this one and, effectively tell a story here or something. And I those are often the vaccine ones. I always just feel really good about when I can, again, relate information, but also do it in a way that I feel is funny and of TikTok and in the Venn diagram of all the things that I want, it actually hits the middle. That always feels good. So I'm trying to find, this was probably one of the last few weeks. I don't know if I can find it. There's one where we introduced AstraZeneca and the whole point, I'm sorry, this is really boring. I'll try to explain as best I can what I'm looking for. But the whole point was just, I wanted it to feel as if it was a lunchroom at school in high school, and that all the other vaccines were these sort of gossiping vaccines trying to figure out who the new guy was. And then at the very end, you see that they're talking about how it still has to get approval. Don't go near him yet.
I mean, the AstraZeneca character is really like, that's a thing. Yeah.
From that was kind of where I decided, I should really just sort of play into this AstraZeneca being sort of the redheaded stepchild of the TikTok without making it too, I don't want to make people distrust it or something, but I think it's fun to sort of give characterizations to these vaccines. That's where I decided that Moderna was going to be super sociable for no reason other than like Dolly Parton. So I really tried to play into this idea and keep running jokes of the different okay, finally found it. That took forever.
Oh, good.
I'll put it in the
perfect. Yeah, drop that in the chat. Great. Well, yeah, everyone, you should go watch those and watch all of them if you haven't been watching.
Right now.
Immediately, like,
yes.
Get off of this and then just go watch Washington Post TikTok for the rest of the night until you fall asleep.
That might be too much. That might be an overdose on Washington Post. Somewhere in between.
Okay, well, before I wrap this up, is there anything we haven't talked about that you want people to know about at this point?
No, I mean, I hope that you all keep following. I always say that I'm not trying to, you don't have to be on TikTok. If you are, follow the Washington Post, but at least, try to see what we're doing on Twitter. I am really excited about everything we're doing. My hope is to continue to evolve the account no matter what's happening. So if I'm not doing that, then I'm not doing my job. But that's kind of how I've always viewed this thing, is I'm just really excited to kind of, that's what makes me so, I guess my whole takeaway, and I hope that people understand, is I just think it's a really, really fun thing. And I really am as passionate about it as I sound. I don't know what I'm trying to say. I just I hope that people understand that it's something that I think really is TikTok itself is really interesting, but also just this whole audience we're building is really fun. And it is something that I think is really unique and I'm really proud of.
Well, it's been a joy to have you here and to get a little bit like of a peek behind, the curtain on what you're doing and how it all works. And, to know that Sam's alive and well. And,
and
for now.
Andy has a new friend that was sent from England. This is Spamantha. So this is an exclusive. Wow. She'll be appearing soon. I hope everyone's excited.
That's a sneak peek, folks.
Yes.
There is a link to Dave's book, the pre-order for the book, in the chat. Chris dropped that in there. So please, if you enjoyed this, I'll do your boosting for you since it's awkward. Please buy Dave's book. It's gonna be great. Keep watching the Washington Post TikToks and subscribe to them and
subscribe to the Cap Times. Support your local paper.
If you value good journalism, then keep supporting it. And it's been fun to have so many people on here who are, huge fans and know intimately the work that you've been doing. So.
Yeah, it's really great. I appreciate everyone saying fun things in the comments, and like, feel free to tag me on Twitter with a question or something, or message me. I think a Clueless game series, by the way, sounds really funny. And Gene really does live across the street from me. So,
oh my God.
So that's not just for a while, people thought we were roommates, but we're not roommates, but he is very close by. So he's always accessible for a TikTok if I can, dig him out. So
I think the world wants more Dave and Gene TikToks for sure.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. I don't want to deprive the world of them, but it is funny when there's enough space between them that people are like, yes, it's happening again. It feels very exclusive.
Yeah, you gotta measure it out, but
yeah.
I liked the one where he found you and made you dance. And
yes, that was, as people correctly surmised, I think in the comments and replies, that was all Gene. I mean, I had the script for it.
Yeah.
I had the basic outline, but he's the reason, like, he made it funny. So yeah.
Well, Dave, thank you so much for doing this and, for helping us out with this and for being game to talk about absolutely everything.
Of course.
Yeah, it's been great having you here.
I'll let you know next time in Madison. We'll, I'll all meet in the same place, all 34 attendees and everything. And
That's right. Talk. No, we'll all actually be in person, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Cool. Thank you so much. This has been great. Thank you all for being here too.
Bye.